You announced the new business. The new you. The transformation. And everyone congratulated you. But the announcement killed the motivation to actually do it. What if telling people gave your brain the reward it was supposed to get from achieving? Your brain can't tell the difference between announcing success and earning it. So it gave you the dopamine. And now you don't need to do the work. The announcement wasn't confidence. It was the end. Because your brain already got what it wanted. And the thing you were so excited about, it died the moment you told everyone. Welcome to Unfiltered Adulthood, where we explore the quiet psychological shifts that reshape you in your 20s, 30s, and 40s. If this resonates, subscribe and hit like. There's someone who got an idea for a business. And it was good. Really good. The kind of idea that made their chest tight with excitement. They could see it clearly. The logo. The website. The first customer. And that clarity felt electric. So they did what felt natural. They told people. They told their friends over coffee. Posted about it on social media. Updated their bio to founder before they'd registered the company. And everyone was supportive. Really supportive. The comments rolled in. This is amazing. You're going to crush this. So proud of you. And it felt incredible. Like they'd already succeeded. Like the hard part was over. But then something strange happened. The excitement started to fade. Not immediately. But gradually. The tasks that had seemed thrilling when the idea was private started to feel like obligations. Designing the website felt tedious. Reaching out to potential customers felt uncomfortable. The actual work of building the thing they'd announced felt unnecessary. Because their brain had already gotten what it needed. Validation. Dopamine. The feeling of success. What they didn't know is that their brain can't tell the difference between announcing something and achieving it. Both actions trigger the same reward system. Both release dopamine. Both create the sensation of accomplishment. So when they announced the business, their brain interpreted that as mission accomplished. And when the brain thinks the mission is accomplished, it stops generating the motivation to continue. The neuroscience is simple. Your brain operates on an effort-reward system. You work toward a goal, and when you achieve it, you get a dopamine hit. That dopamine reinforces the behavior and motivates you to do it again. But there's a glitch. Your brain can be tricked into releasing that dopamine prematurely. And one of the most effective tricks is social validation. When you announce your plans and people respond positively, your brain registers that as progress. As success. As reward. And it releases dopamine accordingly. Not as much as actual achievement would release. But enough. Enough to satisfy the craving. Enough to make the actual work feel less urgent. Because why would your brain push you to do something difficult when it's already gotten the reward? They started noticing the pattern when they looked back at previous attempts. The fitness journey that lasted exactly as long as the Instagram story. The podcast that died after the announcement post. The side project that never made it past the coming soon phase. Every single one had started with an announcement. And every single one had died shortly after. And it wasn't because they lacked discipline. It wasn't because they were lazy or uncommitted. It was because they'd front-loaded the reward. They'd given their brain the dopamine hit before they'd done the work to earn it. And once the brain has the reward, the motivation to chase it evaporates. There's another layer to this. When you announce your plans, you're not just triggering your own dopamine system. You're also creating social pressure. And social pressure has a paradoxical effect on motivation. You'd think that telling people would create accountability. That the fear of judgment would push you to follow through. But for most people, it does the opposite. The pressure becomes paralyzing. Instead of motivating action, it creates avoidance. Because now the stakes feel higher. Now it's not just about whether you can do it. It's about whether you can do it well enough to meet the expectations you've created. And that pressure, combined with the dopamine depletion from the premature announcement, makes starting feel impossible. They tried to push through. They'd sit down to work on the business and feel nothing. No excitement. No drive. Just the heavy awareness that they'd told everyone this was happening and it wasn't. And that awareness didn't motivate them. It paralyzed them. So they'd avoid. They'd procrastinate. They'd find other things to focus on. And the business idea that had felt so alive when it was private slowly died from neglect. The worst part was the shame. Because they'd announced it. People knew. People were waiting. And every time someone asked, "How's the business going?" they'd have to either lie or admit it hadn't happened. And both options felt terrible. So they started avoiding those people too. Which only added to the shame spiral. And then they realized something that changed everything. That every transformation they'd announced had failed. And every transformation they'd kept quiet had succeeded. The job change they didn't tell anyone about until after they'd accepted the offer. The relationship that was months old before they posted about it. The fitness routine they'd been doing for 6 months before anyone noticed. Those things worked. Not because they were more important or more exciting. But because they'd been built in silence. Because their brain had been forced to get its dopamine from the actual work instead of from the announcement. They started experimenting. The next idea that came, they didn't tell anyone. Not their friends. Not their family. Not social media. They just started working. And it felt different. The excitement didn't dissipate. The motivation didn't fade. Because there was no premature reward. The only way to get the dopamine was to actually make progress. So their brain kept pushing them to make progress. And the work itself became the reward. Not the external validation. Not the congratulations. Just the quiet satisfaction of building something that didn't exist before. Of solving problems. Of seeing the thing take shape. That satisfaction was a different kind of dopamine. Deeper. More sustainable. Not the quick hit of social approval but the slow burn of genuine achievement. The business started to take form. Not quickly. Not dramatically. But steadily. And because nobody knew about it, there was no pressure. No expectations to manage. No image to maintain. Just the work. And the work, without the weight of performance, felt lighter. More natural. More like play than obligation. They still felt the urge to announce it. The urge to post. To update the bio. To tell people. But they resisted. Because they'd learned that the announcement would kill it. That the dopamine from telling people would steal the dopamine they needed to keep building. So they stayed quiet. And kept working. Because they discovered that silence isn't secrecy. It's protection. It's protecting your motivation from the dopamine drain of premature validation. It's protecting your idea from the pressure of public expectation. It's protecting your transformation from the announcement that would kill it. Months passed. The business launched. Not with a big announcement. Not with a countdown. Just quietly. And it worked. Not because it was a better idea than the ones before. But because it had been built in silence. Because their brain had gotten its rewards from the right source. From the work itself. Not from talking about the work. And when people eventually found out, they were surprised. Why didn't you tell us you were doing this? And they didn't have a good answer. Because, I didn't want to kill it by announcing it too early, sounds strange. But it was true. The silence had kept it alive. The lack of announcement had preserved the momentum. The absence of early validation had forced them to find validation in the actual building. You announced the transformation. The new business. The new you. And everyone congratulated you. And your brain took that as success. And the motivation died. Because your brain already got what it wanted. And the thing you were excited about died the moment you told everyone. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can learn to build in silence. To let the work speak instead of the announcement. To get your dopamine from progress instead of from promises. To protect your ideas from the validation that would kill them. Because the things worth building don't need announcements. They need silence. They need protection. They need the space to become real before they're broadcast. And the discipline to keep them quiet isn't about secrecy. It's about survival. It's about giving your transformation a chance to actually happen. The announcement feels like confidence. But it's often the thing that kills confidence. Because confidence doesn't come from telling people what you're going to do. It comes from quietly doing it. From letting the results speak. From earning the validation instead of borrowing it. And the next time you have an idea that makes your chest tight with excitement, ask yourself, do you want to announce it, or do you want to build it? Because you probably can't do both. Your brain will pick one reward system. Either the quick hit of social validation or the slow burn of actual achievement. And if you choose the announcement, understand what you're choosing. You're choosing the feeling of having done something over the actual doing of it. You're choosing performance over progress. You're choosing to satisfy your brain with words instead of work. But if you choose silence, if you choose to build without broadcasting, you're choosing something harder but more real. You're choosing to earn the dopamine. To get it from the source that actually matters. To let the transformation happen quietly. And to announce it only when it's already real. Because premature announcement doesn't create accountability. It creates pressure and dopamine depletion. And those two things together kill more transformations than any external obstacle ever could. The thing that kills your dreams isn't difficulty. It's telling people about them before they're strong enough to survive the attention.